Good evening and welcome to The Frame, an initiative of Access Framingham. My name is Brendan Fitzpatrick. We start tonight with improvement projects citywide as members of the Framingham Community Preservation Committee met on Monday to review projects that are eligible for state grants through the Community Preservation Act. 15 applications for money have been submitted for the 2024 fiscal year, with a combined total of about $3.8 million requested for work, including the preservation of Washacum Lake, rental subsidies for low-income families, and further investments into the memorial building's longevity. Property tax surcharges and state resources will be combined through the act to develop recreational space, create affordable housing, and preserve structures of historical and cultural value. The committee's job is to review all of the applications before making a final recommendation to the City Council on how that CPA money should be distributed. The largest request is $1 million for work at Reardon Park, which would include the installation of a playground and water play areas, as well as the development of parking and other utilities. The project was priced at about $2.3 million as of this past October, according to documents submitted to the Community Preservation Committee. Members of the group mentioned on Monday that they could pick just some of the aspects of the scope of work there for the CPA to cover. Another proposal for FY 2024, money for Athenaeum Hall, along with the firehouse building next to it. It's been nearly 30 years since the Athenaeum has been utilized. With that in mind, committee members said they'd like local and state officials to commit to preserving the historic building long-term, following a boost by CPA funding.
If we were to put more money in the future, I think that it should be with the commitment of the city to say we will be responsible for this building. If you help us to upgrade it, we will take the responsibility to make sure that it stays in good condition.
Some committee members noted the fluid nature of the city government, which could make any promises on that matter tough to stick, though others pointed to groups like Friends of Saxonville that have made the Athenaeum's preservation a major goal. On Monday, March 18th at 7 p.m., a public meeting will be held by the Community Preservation Committee at the Memorial Building. Feedback on the applications will be accepted prior to the group's final review and recommendations to the City Council. Meanwhile, the Framingham School Committee is continuing to consider their options on how to address the ongoing school bus shortage in the city. Families are still being served by just 57 drivers at most on a day-to-day basis, as has been the case this school year. Framingham Public Schools' agreement with the company NRT Bus Incorporated calls for 77 operators serving the city. Essentially, FPS can either keep NRT on as their provider, or they can move forward with a model that brings busing operations in-house. A plan like that would make bus operators city employees. Executive Director of Finance and Operations for Framingham Public Schools, Lincoln Lynch, has requested direction from the school district, especially if they want to move forward with recruitment efforts in March. The cost for in-house busing, with the anticipation for the highest possible costs, would be just under $11 million with 77 insured drivers and about $9.5 million with 65 insured drivers, according to Lynch earlier in February. Adam Freudberg of District 4 proposed a slightly different idea, altering the in-house plan with 65 drivers down to 62, with the stipulation that NRT would be kept on until the city can guarantee that 58 in-house drivers are ready to serve. He said the process would be public and transparent, adding that the current agreement with NRT allows for the change to be carried out when Framingham officials feel prepared.
Let's fix this. Let's learn from the past. Let's wait until we have a guaranteed minimum of 58 and then go forward, because we need to fix busing in our community, but we also can't just vote for in-house randomly. It needs to be guaranteed.
Freudberg mentioned that the current vendor model line item of around $8.6 million for the 2025 fiscal year is similar enough to the roughly $9.3 million line item for his idea featuring the 62 in-house drivers, as the latter offers benefits for operators, more guaranteed service for Framingham families, and control for the school district. During their meeting on Tuesday, the Framingham Traffic Commission addressed concerns related to speeding and safety on Temple Street. Residents have expressed their worries about vehicles going faster than the road's speed limits, which range between 25 and 35 miles an hour. Specifically, many residents pointed out speeding along Temple Street north of the Mass Pike. As a result, the city conducted a study between January 30th and February 1st on the road, as about 6,000 cars were tracked per day in that period. During that time, the 85th percentile metric, which shows what speed 85% of drivers have maxed out at, was at 38 miles an hour in both directions. The recent data also showed that average speeds going north and south were both right at the 35 mile an hour limit. Bill Sedowitz, the Chief Public Works Engineer for Framingham and Vice Chair of the Traffic Commission, explained that enforcing speed limits is tricky since the city only has so many resources at their disposal.
We can, potentially try some things we've tried in other locations to see if this is different, speed feedback signs, things like that. Potentially some enhanced enforcement for, a duration. But, the toolbox is not that big relative to try to get vehicles to slow down.
Traffic Commission members said that portable speed feedback signs could be experimented with on Temple Street. From there, city officials could evaluate their effectiveness and see if they're worth a permanent investment. Sedowitz did note, however, that starting the process could take weeks. More details on all of those developments and more stories that matter to the Framingham community can be found on our website, www.theframe.news. From need-to-know updates to events going on in the city, you can stay up to date with us. Subscribe to our newsletter as well so that you never miss what's going on in Framingham. Also, a reminder about our tip line where we're accepting your story ideas. You're free to send an email to theframe@accessfram.tv, or you can give us a call, 508-216-0003. We're going to step aside for a moment, but when we return, a preview on the contested race for the Framingham Democratic Committee during Tuesday's primary. Representatives from the two groups on the ballot make their case. Stay tuned. The Frame will be right back.
The Frame is looking for a new face to anchor the local newscast from the Access Framingham TV studio, which is where I'm at right now. But we want a real person to fill this space, not me. As good looking as I am, imagine your face here. To best reach all of Framingham, we'd like someone that speaks Portuguese. If you live in Framingham and care about your community, get in touch today.
Welcome back into The Frame. Tuesday, March 5th is Super Tuesday here in Massachusetts, as residents will take to the polls for the primary elections. The major race here in Framingham, a pair of groups are contending to be voting onto the Framingham Democratic Committee, which aims to promote and support the Democratic Party at the local, state, and national levels. Registered Democrats, along with independent or unenrolled voters who choose the Democratic ballot, will be able to cast votes for the FDC. 34 candidates make up Group 1, while Group 2 features 24 people. Former State Senator David Magnani is running as a non-group candidate. Now, voters are free to mix and match their votes. They don't have to vote for just one group or the other. Leading up to Tuesday's election, we sat down with State Representative and Group 1 member Jack Patrick Lewis, as well as the chair of the city's Strategic Initiatives and Financial Oversight Committee, Mary Kay Feeney, who's a member of Group 2. We learned more about their respective coalitions' platforms. This is our weekly focus.
The last several decades, the local Democratic Party put together a joint slate, a unity slate with no controversy whatsoever that included all current active members of the committee, and then when there were openings, the invitations went out to associate members, and if still there were any openings, opened up to volunteers. The current co-chairs of the Democratic Town Committee put together that same list. I think it was the last day of October when I received a phone call, along with several others, that an alternative slate was being put together, actually inviting us and inviting me to be a part of that alternate slate. Depending on who called us, we were all given different information. I was told the slate was going to be more bipartisan in nature, which surprised me because it was a Democratic Party slate. I immediately rejected the invitation and reached out to everyone I knew that was being connected to that slate, imploring them to come together to accept what we had always been working on, a unity slate, and that was rejected. Joining the committee is not a popularity contest. You have to participate in local elections. The sole purpose of the committee is to elect Democrats, and you have to put in a certain number of hours each year into electing Democrats. And I firmly believe that if the architects of what became Group 2 really wanted to move the needle or to incorporate new voices, the time and place to do that was months ago when that slate was coming together.
The reason why Group 2 was established was to empower new leaders to take Framingham and the Democratic Committee in a new direction. You know, we believe that Framingham deserves an open and accessible town committee that is also plugged with the issues of our residents. It was very organic. Adam Freudberg and I started talking last year about it's time for the Framingham Democrats to hit the reset button. There were some issues that happened last year that it was a sign that the way we were going is really not the way that Framingham deserves through its committee. And so while talking to other people who we talked to a lot of people, and so other people became very interested in becoming members of the party. We're a collective who's very involved, who knows a lot of people, and we think that our experience and our networks could really benefit from the support of the Framingham Democrats through volunteers, and then also to bring those people who do believe in our values into that group. We shouldn't have to be satisfied with just being like, oh, we've got 35 people and then some associate members. We should have more than that. And there are a lot of really active people in Framingham who've been afraid to stay away from the group due to drama and just their reputation. The reason why we came to this point as well is because our current committee, the leadership, has let us down through scandal, not retaining members, and not doing more to recruit more people. We think that it's time for a new direction and new leaders. I have said that I believe that Framingham's leadership is stuck in the status quo.
They contend that Group 1 is stuck in a status quo. What would your response to that claim be?
To accuse one group of being the status quo while claiming that the other group is full of new voices, again, just isn't rooted in reality. Both groups have new folks that have recently gotten involved, and both groups have folks who have been involved for, in the case of Group 2, we have no life members, and so we don't have any folks who've been involved for 20 years. To be accused of being a part of the status quo when our leadership is new, we have more new members on our slate than Group 2, and Group 2 is filled with folks who have been very involved in Framingham government. Just doesn't quite add up. It's I think a narrative that's easy to say, but anyone who looks at the ballot realizes that there's much more going on.
Group 1 contends on their website, they've mentioned it, that they believe that they're the group that best reflects the city of Framingham, as well as the group with more experience, as well as a more united front on the ballot. What would your response to those claims from Group 1 be?
You know, I have to laugh because somebody I know, a friend of mine, was at Stop and Shop, and some of their canvassers were out front saying that Group 1 is, you know, they work the hardest and they do all this work. I'm not going to take away the work of some members of Group 1. But then they said that nobody on Group 2 does anything. And I have to laugh because the Group 2 is, again, as I said, one current school committee member, two school committee chair, two former school committee chairs, members on all these different committees, former counselors. We have a former town clerk. These are people who are very active in this community and who have seen it all, some of it, and some people are just very new, but they're plugged into their community and they want to do more. So when I hear, you know, they're more experienced, that's not the case. The experience is very much here on Group 2.
What are some of the things that your group is standing on as a platform during this race?
As you said, the pure purpose of the committee is to elect Democrats. It's an eclectic group that doesn't agree on everything all the time. But the Democratic Town Committee, or the local committee, it isn't city council. Yes, it takes positions on local issues, it takes positions on legislation, constantly working to advance things like a woman's right to choose, LGBT rights, immigrant rights, healthcare, the issues that are affecting all of our families. But again, the purpose being to elect Democrats to continue to advocate for those things. And I'm confident when this committee is elected or re-elected that the incumbent slate, which again is Group 1, is going to continue doing that work.
And when people go to the polls on Tuesday for this primary, what's the one or two things you would want them to think about as they're looking at the decision between members of Group 1 and members of Group 2?
The biggest thing is that it's time for Framingham to empower new leaders. Look at the ballot. Do you want to stay the same, with people who've been there for a while, or do you want to take a bet and really put Framingham and the Framingham Democrats in a committee and in a position that works for everybody? I work with everybody, right? And the people who I surround myself with on this group, the 24 of us, we work with everyone, and we have the history of doing that. And regardless of what happens on Tuesday, I'm still going to stay engaged. They're going to still stay engaged, because the issues facing Framingham and Massachusetts and this country are too dire to just let personal grudges get in the way of the good work that needs to be done.
And once more, the primary election is this upcoming Tuesday, March 5th. Polls in Framingham will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. that day. Polling locations can be found on the City Clerk section on framinghamma.gov. Additionally, Friday, March 1st is the final day for early voting in the city. Early voting will be available on Friday at the Memorial Building between 8:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m., as well as the McAuliffe Branch Library from 10 a.m. to noon. It's now time for the weather forecast as we gear up for the weekend. The first weekend of March, if you can believe it. Friday looks like it's going to be sunny throughout the day with highs in the mid-40s and lows in the low 30s. Rain is likely for Saturday, especially after 1 p.m. Highs around 50 and lows in the low 40s. And finally for Sunday, a mostly cloudy outlook with a chance of more showers. Highs in the mid-50s and lows will again be in the low 40s. Coming up next on The Frame, travel updates regarding the MWRTA's Catch Connect night services and weekend work impacting Framingham travel along the MBTA's commuter rail. And for all you lager lovers, a local brewery has a new limited-time beer hall exclusive released in honor of the city's History Center. We'll tell you where to find it in just a bit, but first, our team here at The Frame wants to let you know that it's because of Access Framingham that we're able to present local news to you. We want to take a moment to check out a project that Access Framingham, our community's independent nonprofit media center, has been working on. AFTV covered a Lunar New Year celebration hosted by the Century Chinese Language School at Framingham State University. The event included dances, songs, and more. Let's take a look. Welcome back to The Frame. Let's see what else is happening in our community. The Metro West Regional Transit Authority will soon be launching its Catch Connect night services here in Framingham, as well as in nearby Natick. Starting on Monday, March 4th, from Monday to Friday, the night service will begin at 7:30 following the conclusion of fixed route schedules and end at 10. According to the MWRTA, Catch Connect is a way to promote flexibility to its ridership. They encourage you to download their MWRTA Catch app, where you can register for a Catch Connect account, use the service, and learn more about it. If you're unable to use the app, you can book a trip over the phone by calling 508-283-5083. Catch Connect requires its customers to be ready for pickup at the time of their booking, as no advanced reservations are accepted. Public transit commuters are also being advised that on Saturday, March 2nd, buses will be replacing regular Worcester Line service on the commuter rail between Framingham and South Station in Boston, as the MBTA will be working to improve signals. Normal services will resume on Sunday. Wayside Youth and Family Support Network is providing a program for local caregivers. The Parenting in America program at Parenting Journey will offer support system navigation, tools for assertive advocacy, tips for stress management, trust-building resources, and more. The program is being offered in Portuguese, and it runs for 12 weeks every Thursday from 10 a.m. to noon at 88 Lincoln Street. Reach out to Wayside for more details on registration. In other news, it's just been over a month since the Framingham History Center celebrated the opening of its newest exhibition, Framingham's Collective Journeys, an exhibit that we showcased here on The Frame recently. The History Center now has another exciting announcement. In collaboration with local brewery Jack's Abbey, a new pumpernickel lager has been crafted in honor of the exhibit. The lager features rye and ginger flavors, which were inspired by a nearly 200-year-old recipe book of Framingham's own Elizabeth Carlisle Gordon. This limited-time release is a beer hall exclusive at Jack's Abbey, and it's already available for you to enjoy, so cheers to Collective Journeys. If you do end up giving that lager a try, we would love to hear what you think of it. You can tag us on social media. We're on Instagram at @FrameNews_, as well as on X. Follow us there for daily updates and tag us when you're out in the community. You can also subscribe to the Access Framingham YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when new episodes go up each week. Check out our Facebook page as well, just by searching for The Frame. And finally tonight, the winter sports season at the collegiate and high school levels are wrapping up, with some local teams in the hunt for a shot at glory. Framingham State's women's basketball team wrapped up a 24-2 regular season with a 74-62 win on Saturday in the MASCAC championship game against Bridgewater State. The victory secured the third conference title for FSU in 4 seasons as the Rams punched their ticket to the NCAA Division III tournament. Framingham State will travel to Pennsylvania for round 1 of the 64-team tournament. They'll face the Lady Royals of the University of Scranton Friday night. Tip-off is set for 8:15. As for high school sports, Framingham's girls basketball team and boys hockey team both qualified for their respective MIAA Division I state tournament. The boys took to the ice on Wednesday but bowed out in the round of 32 after losing to number 4 Xaverian by a score of 9-1. The Flyers were still able to secure some hardware this season, however, as they won this year's Cahoon Cup last week prior to the state hockey tournament. The FHS girls basketball team, meanwhile, will enter their tourney as the 11th seed, following a 13-7 regular season. Framingham will host the 22nd-ranked Newton North Tigers Friday night at 6:30. That game will be shown on FEC TV. Keefe Tech's boys basketball team also clinched a spot in the Division V state playoffs as the 32 seed. They beat number 33 Mount Everett on Tuesday, 71-59 in the preliminary round. Their next game is against top-ranked Hoosac Valley Thursday night at 7, so we don't have the results of that matchup just yet as of the time of this taping. One other local athlete made waves this past weekend. Framingham High freshman Adriana DeGroat was crowned the MIAA D1 Girls All-State Champion in wrestling for the 120-pound class. She's the first girls All-State champ in the school's history. DeGroat will be in Rhode Island this weekend to compete in the New England Championship. We congratulate her and all of the other local high school and collegiate athletes. That's going to do it for this week's Framingham News in Focus. For all of us here at The Frame, we want to thank you for spending time with us tonight. I'm Brendan Fitzpatrick. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.